question is, you are sitting in a unique position here that you are dealing with seniors every day, or they are your clients, right? Or you have family members. And what is that one thing, either in your professional life or personal life, that has driven you every day and you're not stopping? What is that one thing? If you can each tell the audience about it. And Poonam, if you can pass the mic to her. Just one thing, speak on the mic, on the lapel. Yes.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I would say for me on my end, it's the idea that people have to be their own best advocates. The work that we do at Georgia Watch is really all about creating resources to arm people to be their best advocate, to advocate for themselves. Because I am definitely a proponent of the notion that no one knows what you need better than you, and no one can argue for that better than you. So that's really the driving sort of motivation behind what I do and what we do at Georgia Watch.
Very nice. Thank you. Pamela?
For me, I think what it is when we get a phone call that comes in to our caregiver link and someone says, we just got this diagnosis, we don't know what to do. Being able to provide them with resources, provide them with support, connect them with others who have walked the journey, and they can understand that they're not alone, you know, they can do this, and also to prepare them for what's ahead. Because I always tell people, it's kind of like you're all of a sudden on a roller coaster, and it's not like, you know, when you go to a theme park, when that roller coaster ends, you're not being dumped off in a gift shop. So it is a really difficult journey, and to know ahead of time what to prepare for.
Thank you.
I served in hospice for about 15 years, and now I do a private practice. And one of the things that drives me is I know that I know that I know that we are not taught how to get ready. Now, you have a great panel here that has different aspects about how to do that informationally. I work more with families and couples and individuals on the mental and the emotional processing of what it means to become old, and I say that with great respect, right? We in this country are trying to figure out, how do we say old? Well, we're getting old. We're aging, we will become ill, and we will die. And there's very little in our culture to try to help us to get close to that. And my philosophy is not to avoid it, but to deal with it. And when we deal with the reality of the human experience, we can then live more intentionally and with gratitude and with compassion. That's my drive.
Thank you. Poonam?
Thank you, Nazira. Well, I just have a very simple drive, is to see the smile on every face of the senior. I have been taught from my childhood. My father would, I've seen him, touching as a, seen in our culture. He will bow down to any elderly person he will see to take the blessings. And that's something that's always stayed with me. So I had been working in the corporate world for so long, but it did not, there was something that was missing. And I think it was something I was so passionate about, I always put it on the back seat. And finally, I decided I need to step up and serve, especially the elderly. I would very closely observe, I have been 27 years being in Atlanta. I've worked very closely with the immigrant population as well as American population, and I see the challenges, I see the limitations that they have, that they come with, which come with age. So I feel that it's my responsibility to do something to address those, and in whatever small way or a big way I can do, I want to get up every day and do it and bring smile on their face. That's what I want to do.
Thank you, Poonam. And when Poonam and I spoke, like probably a month ago, when I was inviting her to be on the panel, we sat for 2 hours and literally we just shed the tears for the 2 hours because of the real stories that she said that we don't realize. It's about social intelligence, but thank you so much for bringing us the reality outside of how each one can face and how to be better prepared. So thank you. And what about you?
Yes, I am still in the corporate world, but as my volunteer activities, I'm on the Speakers Bureau for the Alzheimer's Association. And I think it's so important that people have the information that they need to understand Alzheimer's. It's been said that it's the most dreaded disease that there is, especially for those of us who plan to live to an old age. And so I think there are a lot of resources available both for people who may be prone to Alzheimer's and especially for caregivers with support groups. And it's amazing to me, I did a talk at lunchtime for a church over in Decatur, and it's amazing how little understanding of the disease there is. And it is not a disease that is something that you can just take. I mean, you don't have to just take it. You can prolong getting it if you have a genetic disposition to it. You can change your lifestyle so that you're less likely to get it. And I think that that information is available, and everyone should understand how lifestyle impacts our health.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne. So, Melissa, tell us what drives you every day.
Sure. So I will say that I was very naive until it happened within my own family, that I did not realize that unless you have saved a whole lot of money or you are on the very low income of the spectrum, there is no care, in-home care that is provided under Medicare or other types of insurance. So, you know, my own family, I have two 94-year-old grandparents. My grandfather is my grandmother's primary caregiver, and it's tough, you know, and it's tough on everybody in that scenario, all members of the family. You know, we're fortunate enough to be able to pay in-home caregivers a couple hours at a time, but that's not the reality for a lot of people. And by the way, there's not enough of those in-home caregivers to go around as this population continues to age. So I just really wanted to be a part of finding a solution to that problem, and I hope that I can be part of that and work on behalf of that population to make sure that there's help out there.
Thank you, Dr. Winkert.
So what drives me every day? My car drives me every day. Aside from that, I'm primarily a scientist, so I tend to be a curious person, a skeptical person, and a person who likes ideas. So what drives me every day is to be in a world of ideas and trying to generate data and science upon which good decisions can be made, whether it's the science of aging or the science of health, trying to create that kind of data rather than simply going by beliefs. I mean, there is a danger sometimes that we all have our own beliefs, but whether those beliefs work or not is where I come from. And for example, very recently, for the last 2 or 3 years, a close friend of mine, Dr. Richard Smith, who used to be editor of the British Medical Journal, I and several others, have been having this open and frank conversation about the simple idea that as a human society, particularly over the last 100, 200 years, we have come to deny death. And we are arguing that the beginning of high quality life is the acceptance of death as part and parcel of it all. And there I agree with you. And in terms of my own research, I'll talk a little later.
Very nice. Thank you, Patty.
So in my practice, I'm an elder law attorney, and so most of my clients are either elderly or are facing a disability. But to be honest with you, most of the time I'm meeting with the children, the adult children of someone who is in crisis. And so the children are scrambling to figure out how do we find care for our parent, and how are we going to pay for that care, and did they do the proper planning beforehand so that we can help them out. I'm actually in the same situation. My father has Alzheimer's, and so I'm his primary financial and healthcare decision maker, you would say. And so now I feel like I totally understand where my clients are at, and my why is really to get people to come in to see me earlier so that we're not in crisis, that we can plan beforehand. But the reality is that most people don't come in and see a lawyer. They don't want to see a lawyer until they're in crisis. So my goal is actually to get people to come in earlier. So
You're a lawyer they can like. The thing that really has changed my life in the last 10 years is this becoming an educator. I teach over 120 classes a year, and half of my classes I teach are just regular consumers and citizens, and half of my classes I teach are to professionals. And I teach social workers about Medicare, and I ask them, I say, why aren't you getting this at the School of Social Work at University of Georgia, for example? And they say they just don't teach us this segment. There's a real vacuum, and it's a problem. And so I've really enjoyed filling that, and it really is rewarding because people are thankful. They're saying, thank you, we really need to have more of this. There needs to be 100 of me out there teaching, and the government is not sending people out to teach on this. The funding has been cut back on several organizations, and it's just a problem. And it's very rewarding. It makes you feel good to feel like my staff is really making a difference for people to decode and to educate and to help reduce the anxiety around this topic. And one of my classes that I'm teaching on the 14th is Medicare and long-term care. And I'm teaching that to health insurance agents at their convention because they're not getting the information.